Says, right on cue, Gary's lights went out.
They did. Just we have an affirmation that the time is right. And now what Gary did do was put down his matches. He's got a little light here, but it won't last long.
Well, people say, I'm no match for you, Gary. You're a little lighter.
Oh, look, scary lighting. Hello, Johnny. How are you? Well, it might just be me and him, which is, a terrible thing.
It's pretty dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah. And other than one thing, I've forgotten what else I was going to talk about. But the one thing that I did, go on, mate.
I can tell you're a hot air balloonist because you're pretty good with that match, mate. Pretty good with flames.
Oh, don't. There was a terrible accident where a real pioneer of ballooning died recently, and because he couldn't find his extra source of ignition when his burners went out, and found it very late, too late. There we go. Right, there's a candle. Now our matches. Now I'm going to blame the matches. The heads of them just fly off. They're terrible.
They don't make stuff like they used to, eh? What's the world coming to?
Oh, exactly.
Let's have a gripe. Let's be old and gripe.
Now I'm also hello there, Mick. Mick. Funny enough, the candles going out as well. They don't make candles like they used to.
Fireproof candles.
Yeah, absolutely. Mick, funny enough, is in a thread. And John's back from holiday. 3 weeks touring bicycle. Office chair's never been. You don't want to use an office chair on a bicycle, but anyway, that's a luxury bike. Old and gropey, same as every stream, exactly. So Mick is in Australia, and Mick, like me and Bruce, I am certain, started off in the multi-rotor world flying tricopters with gyros and no flight control board or anything like that. And that came up in that came in drone pilot. That came up in a thread on Facebook, I think it was, or something like that, where solos were mentioned. But prior to that, somebody wouldn't believe me that we used to use just gyros. Didn't think it was possible. It was quite a thing. But I've always enjoyed those tricopters. I thought they were floaty and, I don't know, somewhat more aircraft-like to drive than our modern.
More like hot air balloons than quadcopters, eh?
Yeah. And a wee Motion Plus adapters. Yes, Mick. Oh, yeah, you are. Mick is going back into the olditude. I've got somewhere back over there, there's a Steadicopter, and I think that would make quite a good vintage drone. So the part of that conversation went, at what point can we have vintage fly-ins? What's a vintage drone other than a 2018 model? 2010 and...
Yeah. When I started, I was so poor I could only afford 2 motors on my tricopter. It never flew well.
Yeah, it wasn't even gyros. Had to hack them from Wii controllers.
Did you? Well, we use... Oh, Gary's gone. What happened? No, well, on mine. No. We used rate gyros from helicopters, and he's back. Is he back?
Oh.
No, I'm just looking. He's back. Where'd you go?
I don't know, and we swapped over as well. That happened. Right, all right. Let's get some talking. I don't know if anyone's seen. I don't know where the others are, but morning, afternoon, Bruce, exactly. Teal have just got it's not only did this candle die. Teal just got a $2.6 million order for 172 units. Look, I actually wrote this down, because I knew I wouldn't have the big screen, but also it sort of horrified me. So 172 units of the Teal drones going to a US agency. I can't remember which one. It doesn't really matter. It's $15,116 each of my masses, right? And I went quickly and looked for a Mavic 3 Thermal, which is a similar specifications, and they're going for $5,498. I expect you can buy them in bulk for less. So you could have 471 Mavics for those 172 Teal units. It just beggars belief that they can make money like this at these things, really, hand over fist. And it also got me thinking, and this comes back around to that solo thing. What would life have been like if the solo had succeeded? If DJI hadn't flattened them? Because that came out in 2015 for a cooler. I think it was $1,400 with a gimbal. So I don't know what it would cost to. In 2015, it would have cost a bit to add the thermal to that, but not $2,000 or $3,000, I don't think. So where would we have been? Where would we have been, or the American drone market been, if DJI hadn't bashed through like it did? I don't think these people would be getting away with the prices that they are. That's for sure.
No, there seems to be some protectionism going on there, I think, more than anything, isn't it?
Protections and what from
to protect the US market from overseas competition.
Well, they didn't do a very good job of it in 2015 when DJI pulled the rug under them on pricing. They let that happen, and that's when the DJI were on the board of AUVSI in like a year later or something like that. They were welcoming them with open arms, and they didn't see the unintended consequences of all that, I think.
Yeah, but DJI just owns the market unless you've got some kind of government mandate to get in over the top of them.
They're just the story of Teal and this $2.6 million order really, to me, is more a story of.
Yes, but Gary, that explain it. These are UAV systems. They include the box, not a cardboard box, but a Pelican case. That's the difference.
Yes. Yes, you're right. And a switch that says danger or something else like on or do not press or caution. Would the US drone market have been more expensive? For sure. But would technological innovation, well, I think we've got to remember that at the time, the Solo was ahead of the Phantom 2 when it came out. But then the Phantom 3 came out, at which they really aggressively priced. And then, it didn't keep up with the 4. You're probably right, John. Would they have kept up? I wonder.
Because remember, Skydio is an American company, isn't it? They come up with some of the really cool technology. So the Americans can do the tech, but when you've lost a market and there's no money in it, it's not as there's not as much incentive to do the tech because you're playing catch up.
It's but I think what's in my mind is that the American paying American public might not be being ripped off as much as they are at the moment. Skydio is still the most advanced. It is, but I think they've lost the plot with, we can't really fly in the dark. That's a bit of an issue. And
but it's too dangerous to fly in the dark. Way too dangerous to fly in the dark. I mean, that's why you're not allowed to fly drones at night. Well, you weren't.
Yes.
Until suddenly it became safe for no reason other than the rules changed.
Yeah, and the other one, I'm sorry that Mark isn't here. He might be out flying one of his swarms, but I noticed that the UK is beginning to ask people to say what the plan is for operator health and safety, or not health and safety, operator health and crew fatigue and stuff.
Did you see?
Try to buy. Go on, mate.
Well, I remember. Did you see the FAA podcast? You listened to the FAA podcast I tweeted about? You know, the FAA spent all that money removing the gender-specific nomenclature from its terminologies. Unmanned aerial systems became uncrewed aerial systems. Yes. And they went on, they made videos, and I must have spent millions of dollars removing it all from the documentation, updating everything. Then they put out a podcast this week with 2 women talking about drones. And one woman said, UAS refers to unmanned aerial systems. An FAA employee has basically and a woman has thrown all that work out the window by referring to them as unmanned aerial systems. What a waste of money. It's so the wokeism of all this, gender non-specific nomenclature. And then people just go back and use the words that they were using anyway. Well, it just makes me laugh.
I sometimes think that changing your acronyms helps. If your product's failed, then you just dodge around the acronym to until your product works again, or you make a new product by changing the acronym.
Well, you could change Twitter to X, couldn't you?
That would work. You could do. Oh yeah, you could do that. And I wasn't thinking about that, but you could do that. But there's a new one for the delivery drone and AAM. I've already forgotten it, but it's like
Oh,
how if it's not if it doesn't make money, they change the acronym and hope that the new acronym
yeah.
will make the money.
There was a
The
good
US
story on BBC about air taxis. Are they viable? And they spoke with about Lilium and who's the other one? I don't know, a couple of them. And
Whiskers,
basically,
yeah.
even the BBC came to the conclusion these things are just not economically viable until we get a new generation of batteries, which is 15 to 20 years away. So why are we investing all this money in stuff that by the time the batteries are ready, the airframes and the electronics will be all outdated? We're building a superhighway in the sky for craft that won't actually be arriving for another 20 years. It makes no sense.
I was a scroller. I'll see. Tell them on the phone. Cool Cat says about labour costs. Well, but DJI are largely removing the labour costs
Yeah.
because the whole assembly line's robotic. So
Yeah.
you're it's trickier. Sorry, Bruce. After you.
Yeah. No. The other thing is, I read an article the other day which says that China is having trouble getting low-cost labor now too, because people don't want to work in low-cost labor shops. That the standard of living has risen. So it's going to be places like Indonesia and perhaps India where these things they can come in and provide the low-cost labor. But China's priced itself out of the market in many places.
And India has also just banned Chinese parts in military drones. It's military drones, but the ridiculousness of that is nearly their entire drone ecosystem is Chinese parts, Chinese drones, and the made in India thing that really doesn't exist. I know Philip's opening a factory there, Philip Rails, and a few other people are opening factories to actually start making the stuff in country there, but it really is a handful of companies doing it. It's a huge market.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see how India goes.
You try buying a neodymium magnet from anywhere but China these days, if you want to make your own motors.
Yes, well, that's where they're going to. Yeah, exactly, and that's where they can be. They're them choosing not to export certain things is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, because there's a whole lot of other stuff that they were talking about. They're not going to export relevant to the semiconductor market because they're clamping down on the export of semiconductors. China has said, well, we're not going to export gallium and germanium to you because they're important parts of the process, and we've got the world's resources of them. So that's going to throw a spanner. When you have these sort of tit-for-tat trade wars, nobody wins. Everyone ends up losing because prices go through the roof and availability drops. And can't we all be friends?
No, it's pretty interesting, and I don't think the impact. Well, there is no impact on September 1st yet because we've got to get.
You haven't seen me fly,
but you'll be able to. You'll be able to tell us on September 1st what the impact was because you'll get there before us.
Yeah, we'll get there first.
But you'll get there first. You'll know everything before the rest of us. But it'll be interesting to see. Now, when I was doing my little bit of research on the Mavic 3 Thermal, by little I mean looking at 3 websites.
Do you research for this stream? Do you do research?
No, I don't.
No, it doesn't show.
No, exactly. No. every single site I looked at said limited stock coming soon, etc., etc., etc. Of loads and loads and loads of their stuff. So I'm wondering if there has been a little bit of a buying spree already happening. That's just the way it is. But every single American site had limited stock of the thermal stuff and the bigger stuff. But I suppose they only normally ship 5 or 10 units if you're a smaller, 50. I don't know if you're a smaller shop, and that would be gone now. Oh, there's a moth to the flame.
I thought it might have been a vulture or something by the size of it.
No, it was a moth. Yeah. Funny enough, I was flying today, and for the first little autel thing, and for the first time ever, I kept seeing all the bugs in the shots, and there's loads of midges and little stuff about. But it landed the thing. There was even one trying to get into the battery bay. They're in the sensors. They were everywhere. It was completely covered. When can we make our ADSB rig device, please? Oh, if I may.
Now I'm nearly finished the first video. It'll be a 2-part video consisting of parts 2 and 4 because people say I never do a part 2. So I'm starting with part 2 that solved that problem. And I'm going straight to part 4 after that because I see that Raspberry Pis are now becoming more and more available. In fact, there's a scooter crowd in
I saw
Seattle.
that.
They'd rent scooters, yeah, and they thought
Yes.
they're abandoning them. So just find a electric scooter in Seattle, open it up, and you'll get a free Raspberry Pi. How good is that?
Yeah, well, that's right. You take your magnets down to the lake and go and see if you can pull them out on the water side. Yeah, that was very interesting. I saw that. But what I also thought what was interesting about that is people thought that there might be a more complicated or clever computer hiding them. I mean, how was that? I'm not sure how that was a shock. Because, like, well, what did you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
Build their own, own
Why would
thing?
you reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
You never get this quantity of scale that Raspberry Pi produced, so you never get the parts as cheap. And so it is often, that's why they've been so popular. Most of the Raspberry Pis ever made have gone into industrial commercial applications. So
Yeah.
they've OEM
Yeah.
and thrown them in a box and add some software, and then there's a shrink wrap solution.
Yes, definitely. Yes, there's Raspberry Pis doing very, very mundane things all around the world, counting people opening and closing doors. They won't be leading the exciting life that the Pi community would think that they would hope they'd be getting. Peppermint, was it a lithium moth? Yes, it quite possibly was. So we've done that. We've done teal. We've done
There was the medical drone that crashed with blood supplies. Imagine if that fell on your head and it had HIV blood or something in it.
Where was that? I didn't see
Was
that.
it? I don't know. You have to look it up. I didn't notice where it was, but yeah, it was a drone. It might have been Africa somewhere, something that was flying medical supplies and had a crash. So yeah, that's not very good, is it? There was blood everywhere.
Quite so. Yeah. Well, that leads a little bit into the let me just quickly jump back. So yeah, it looks like the CAA in the UK is thinking about flight time limitations for drone operators, and that's pretty much like truck driving rules. You can only drive so many hours, etc., etc.
Is there enough work out there to have that? I didn't think people were that busy with drones. I thought everyone was looking for work.
Well, there is that, but what people won't realize is that means it might mean it like you have to put in an extra night stay in a hotel somewhere because you can't drive 9 hours, get somewhere, do the job, turn around and drive 9 hours back again, like people do now. So it's very interesting. And
BV lost to the rescue. You don't have to drive; just sit in your backyard and do it.
Well, if you've got a fatigue thing, then it might mean you have to have two pilots to get a job done, and then suddenly cost effectiveness disappears without the.
Is it really that hard?
Just a normal.
Is it really that hard to fly a drone?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? It's like if it was an aircraft that you were sat in, that's a different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks from what people are talking about updating their ops manuals that it's a little insidious creep of something that's happening in the manned world. The things, your duty, if it comes in, your duty starts when you leave your house. It's not, I turned up at the site at 6 o'clock, flew till 7, and then it's not just that flight time. It's, even though it says flight time limitations, it's from when you leave home to get home is your duty time. And yeah, it's just like lorry drivers and tacos. And I don't mean the food. It's
but driving a 40-ton truck down a motorway at 70 miles an hour with a lot of cars around you is a totally different risk profile to flying a 1 kilogram Mavic, getting some aerial shots out in the countryside.
No, it's not, because in the manuals we've only got one set of rules, and therefore it has to fit into these rules, and we're not going to consider it at all. We're just going to say. Are
you saying they're not risk-based? Are you saying these rules aren't proportionate to risk?
No, I'm saying that they're in a manual, and here it is. It's the cap, and this is what you shall do. And we won't spend any time thinking about how to do it differently, or why it might even be different. And there will be fatigue issues, and there will be situations that you could get yourself stressed about. But let's research that, find out what they are, and have some appropriate.
Yeah, and couldn't you just have a rule that says you should not fly if you're fatigued to the point where you are no longer able to safely carry out your duties?
Pull up a sandbag. The only reason I know about FTLs is I used to have to abide by them a lot ballooning years ago, and it was something like you couldn't end up flying any more than, I think it was 6 days if you did back to back, morning afternoon. It was something like that. I think it was day 14 of my boss say, don't bother filling out the FTLs, I actually said to my mate who was driving the retreat, I said, where have we just flown? Where have we just been? And he said to me, I don't know. Neither of us, we were so tired, and we may have completely broken the law. So I do see the point of it, but we were so tired that we didn't know where we'd been. And I cancelled the next day's fine. But my God, I earned some money that year.
But when you drive your car on the road, you're told you shouldn't drive when you're tired. We don't have like a prescriptive limit of how long you can drive or when you can drive. And a car can kill a lot more people than a drone, a small, recreational drone. So I don't see, this is a discussion I was having on Twitter with somebody. The rules have to be proportionate to risk or they will be ignored. And we've seen that the aviation regulators want to hold unmanned aviation to a much higher level than manned aviation.
Much higher.
Why? Why are they doing that? Oh, there's that. Kill them off.
Yes, no, it's another one because that other one is deed over there. It's only go through the mighty candle once. It makes absolutely right. They've got to start, but also it's almost like they're thinking ahead to urban air mobility and the flying cars and all that sort of thing. We've got to start getting some regulations in for the flying cars. It's another fatigue has usually been in the regs template and syllabus for years. Okay, IUP. So what are the FTLs in the UK then? And how is it normally expressed? I'm very keen. I hadn't heard about it. To me, it looked brand new, but it doesn't seem appropriate in a lot of ways. What else was I going to talk about? I'm forgetting about a lot of things. The chap from Brink is travelling again, so he's not coming now. And we have a chap from Australia who wants to come on. He might pop up any time and tell us things. So we shall see.
Tell us things.
Things, yes.
Things we need to know.
I don't really know what things they approached me and I said, yeah, come on, I don't mind. Let's see what happens. And now they're saying, what do you want to talk about? Well, I don't know. Why do you want to come? Sort of a thing, perhaps.
Yes.
So what else? What have you seen, Bruce?
Well, it's only 5 weeks to the start of remote ID in the USA, and there's still not really off-the-shelf remote ID modules that are going to do the job.
Yes.
Because I found another anomaly. I've got a DLG. If I was living in the USA, it's 260 grams, my DLG. And it has a 1S battery in it. None of the remote ID units I've seen will operate from a 1S battery. How would I put remote ID in that discus launch glider? And why would I even need to?
Well, quite. Yeah, I mean, even having, I suppose you could catch the thermal and be up a little bit longer. But yeah, it's hard.
I'd love to see them. With Spektrum, I got their Spektrum ID. Yeah. Yeah, but it's still, there's no specs. It's just a brochure. That's it.
It is just a brochure, and it says it'll possibly be under $100. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So the FAA need to be subsidizing these because they said $50. So they can pay $50 for everyone, half of the bill when people buy remote ID. I think that'd be a good idea.
Well, like they did with ADSB.
ADSB, yeah. Why not? It's just, if it's that important, then they should do the same thing. Why are we being treated as a poor cousin of manned aviation? We're pilots, you know.
Why on earth didn't we should have gone for that? Why on earth didn't we go for that? Give us the same rebates as the same discount as they did for ADSB.
Because the hobby's too disorganized and no one thinks ahead. And those who do think ahead are condemned as doomsayers and grumpy old men from New Zealand. Not that that fits me.
I haven't noticed any moaning at Bruce videos recently. Have you had anyone moaning at you recently?
I don't know. I tend to tune out a bit, actually. I encourage them to moan at me because unless people tell you what you're doing wrong, you can't fix it.
That's true. I see Stu. Is it Stu from UAV Future said nice things about you?
Yeah.
Well, he's gone down. I've written him down on the list here. He's gone down in my estimation.
Yeah, strike him off.
Strike him
but
off,
there's still a lot of freers to be issued before the 16th of September.
What number are we at? Do we know what number?
Nobody knows because they've got a website where you can go and look at where all freers are, but they've done everything except put the freers on there. That's great. Typical bureaucracy. They're too busy issuing them to update the website, apparently.
It's going to be very interesting, isn't it, when it rolls around? And it's amazing how people are just really are still just catching up to this fact. And
Yeah.
we've known about it for a while.
Yes, Jason, the dipole antennas. I left a comment
Yes.
saying dipoles are still not as good as circularly polarized, because look at all the new digital gear. They come with circularly polarized antennas. Why don't they just use dipoles?
Yeah. Well, they're simple to build. I mean, that's
Well, so's a CP antenna if you got a bit of time, but you don't have to build them. The thing is, the manufacturers threw them in because they were cheap, because they were Wi-Fi antennas, ubiquitous. You can get them for like 25 cents or something. So they can say comes with antennas, even if the antennas are something you should immediately bin. So it's changed now. I think most video transmitters you buy without an antenna, because there's no point in giving someone an antenna they're going to throw away, and they don't want to add the price of a good antenna to the package. So, and that's analog, of course, analog for the win.
You just the bigger number it says in watts out, it makes it a million times better. You just
you see that
watts through a string dipole.
The video I put out yesterday, where I with the FPV footage of me hitting the fence, I'm sure it was the 2-watt video transmitter that broke the fence.
Probably. And people, it really bugs me that people buy all these aftermarket things for DJI stuff and other transmitters that clamp on and do this and do that. It's like, oh no.
And Jason asks, aren't the antennas on goggles too dipole? They are. Yeah, I think the thing, you don't need circular polarized to get results with digital, and I think they're using. I'm not actually sure, though. I know that the little pokey up ones are probably linearly polarized, as it is on the potato drone, but CP will still work much better for analog use.
I saw, and I forgot, I should have written it down because I can't search for it now. I saw a chap's video on another digital standard, an open digital standard that looked quite interesting.
Yes, with the security camera. And it was $20 to $30. Yeah, I put a tweet out about that. Yeah, that looks interesting. But latency is going to be an issue there. They said latency can be as low as 50 milliseconds. Well, that's an eternity if you're flying FPV.
But depending on your use case, if you're plodding around rather than rushing around, then it wouldn't be so bad. I meant to ask you and Ian to explain that to me. What is that?
That's a security camera that works.
Security camera.
Yeah, with an IP output, so it's got internet protocol output rather than a analog or composite or whatever. So it has an internet protocol output, and you whack it into a Wi-Fi transmitter, and it broadcasts that signal as a Wi-Fi signal. So all the video compression and everything is done in the camera itself, which means it's putting out much less data than a normal digital camera with a MIPI interface. So it's a clever use of the technology. And as you say, if you're flying something that's got a flight controller fixed wing, and you're really just steering it around the sky and want to see what's around you, that's a perfect solution. And they're talking about 100 miles with a suitable antenna set up, 100K with a suitable antenna set up and suitable boosters, which is quite reasonable to expect. But it's it is a specifically because you can have a nice you could use a dish, and you can boost it up to 2 watts, and so you'll get really good range as long as you're above the horizon, which means you might have to be above 400 feet at 100 kilometers. I don't know what the curve of the earth is. You can work that out, Gary. Work it out in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have got the huge advantage of being able to use commercial off-the-shelf, decent coax, decent, as you say, grid or dish antennas, and decent amplifiers that will be, commercially proper, rather than the old rubbish we used to use, or the cantennae. So I'm trying to link it round back to Mick is showing his time in service there.
Yes. You can use a wok too, actually. So it was very good in New Zealand. Some guy set up a Wi-Fi link with a couple of woks as dishes.
A 5.8 or 2.4 gig wok.
I've got an old satellite dish that I'm going to use when I finally do that balloon with the video transmitter on it. Yes. I've got a satellite dish I'm going to use to track that. Yeah. Well, summer's coming. Yeah. And Cool Cat asks, do I like the new small transmitters being launched, the Pocket Jumper T220? I don't find they give me as much precision as a bigger transmitter. The smallest I would like to go is the, what is it called? The Zorro. That still feels big enough. When you get down to the really small ones, you just lose the precision because I'm a thumber. And I still like the full size. My daily drive is my Tyrannus 9X from, I don't know, 2012 or whenever it was. That's still my daily drive. And the smaller transmitters are great if you're backpacking or you just want something you can carry around. But no, the really small ones, because I have the TX12 was too small for me. And there was something else I had which was also similar. I think, I think Jumper made it. Yeah, the Jumper Light, the Jumper T Light, the little one. That's almost okay. It's got really good sticks. But yeah, I prefer Zorro, what is it, Tango 2, or like the T16 size.
My chum is flying his Husif drone the other day, and he had a little one of those little transmitters, and he likes it. But there's an element of you're turning up for a job. You want the biggest transmitter possible, again with a guarded switch and knobs and buttons and dials, because it's about what the client thinks, regardless of what you like. Futaba. Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried personally. I've never had, other than the children's toys. Far be it from me to say, but that's what it feels like.
The box is quite a nice radio. I had to put new springs in mine because I could not get them loose enough and retain the centering with the stock springs, because with my shaky thumbs, I have to have really light sticks. I haven't used the boxer very much because it's bigger than I need for multi-rotor, but it doesn't have sliders, which I use for fixed wing. So it's kind of there's a few bits missing. One day I'm going to make my own perfect radio. I've got a 3D printer. I'll just get some boards and make the radio that I want, but that'll be a long way off probably because I've got too many other things to do.
Yeah, fly that balloon. That's quite a project. But I think I might delve into a little bit more into that FPV setup, because it really was quite cheap, and I can see the house, because I never race anything around. There's some little ones here that my boys race around, but not me.
You still use a calendar to measure your reflexes, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I change the times, or I change the clocks for summer and all that sort of thing. I run different stuff. Wok fight. Yes, Mick's on fire this morning over there in Australia. Wok fight. Yes. Yeah, and there's 2 Tyrannuses behind me in a Spektrum, and something else, high tech as well, which I never use.
Yeah, I've got a couple of high techs that I don't know if they even make receivers for them anymore.
Sound presented with the hair. Sorry, that's my. I'll have to go a bit closer then. That's a full microphone on the cell phone.
Who's he talking about? You or me, Gary?
Yeah, I must be talking about you.
Yeah, I've got hair. It's just in a drawer over there.
I liked on your recent video when you were talking about old men flying there. Your place, the last weekend, we did more flying. I couldn't think of enough, because I see it behind you there. The concrete stand for the tower. It's in the shot there. It's like, I wanted to say, it'd be a great place to put a tower. That would. Yeah,
would be a fantastic place.
Really good spot. Did you ever find out where that tower ended up? It's just in the scrapyard.
No, I think they dumped it. They didn't even send it for recycling, as far as I know. It just got dumped because that's what they do.
But that mayor's long gone now, isn't it?
Yeah, she's departed, left the place in a big mess, deferred all the capital spending and maintenance, so that she was the mayor that had low rates, and now the new council has to boost the rates by 18% because the bills have all come home now. So it's just terrible.
Now, what else are we going to talk about? Are we just going to make this the shortest one for a long time?
I don't know. There must be other stuff. I did read some other stuff. I didn't make any notes today.
Things that you make notes.
No, just like you, I never prepare. But it sounds better if you say that, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's very hard to be spontaneous if you've written it all down, isn't it?
So Mick's got a Free Sky X20 HD. I could never spend that much on a radio. They're so fancy, and all the switches and dials and knobs. Because I drop my radios so often, that'd be a travesty. You got to wonder what you get for the money.
One transmitter. I just why did I? Oh, because I watched the crash. Put the thing down, and then I backed over it. That's what I did. I remember that. Back over it. So to get my car to the scene of the crime, and it was a very, very, very big bag. It was, what was that thing? It was like a It was a big like glider type thing, like 3 meter wingspan, uh, glow engine and all that sort of thing. And the chap said, "Oh, um, I'll fix that for you." And it was like your man there, a real bag of bits. So he was busy fixing it and doing a fine job. I said if he fixed it, he could have it. And one night I heard a big bang, and there was a gas tank in his house. So it was like 3 or 4 kilometers going up, and it and all his other models went up in a big bang. What do you fly, Gary? What's in your toy box man cave? Well, sadly my daily driver really is that little hotel, which I really like. I was using it today to make a 3D model with the children at school. I like me gliders. That's what I like. So I am slow FPV.
So you could paint stripes on that moth and call it a de Havilland.
There you go. Or a drone. Yes, the Queen Bee. It says a drone. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's and then I'll go and watch and abuse my friends whilst he's flying his big commercial multi-rotors and rejoin things or separate lift thrust, however you want to put it. So I'll watch and be abusive. That's what I'm. Yeah. That's my main role, is just to be abusive. A bit.
I think I could never be like that. Really. I could never be. But interesting, talking about radios, I wonder where they're going to go now, because like you notice Radio Master has brought out so many different radios, different sizes and styles and shapes. We've reached kind of like maximum featureitis. There's not much else we can put into a radio anymore. So they're changing the shape of them. Now that we've got radios of every shape and size, what comes next? Because Radio Master obviously doesn't make money unless it's selling new radios. So what are they going to do to encourage people to go and spend more money when they've already probably got 3 or 4 radios that they've bought?
Yeah.
How are they going to get them to buy the next one?
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have built-in remote ID?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will too.
Yes, I do, and they'll have to have a. The Spektrum one instantly makes you think. Well, does this Spektrum unit have an independent GPS in it? Things like
it's got a built-in GPS, I think, inside it. It's going to be interesting though, because I think anyone that makes a radio with built-in remote ID has to be very, very cautious, because there are people who do not want to use and don't have to use remote ID, but to comply with the rule, if you have remote ID in the radio, you must not be able to turn it off or disable it. Yes. So it's you're going to have 2 radios, one for the remote ID users and one without remote ID users. It becomes a tricky thing.
Well, it'll be in the receiver, won't it? It won't be.
No, transmitter, because you'll have a GPS in the transmitter as well. It'll be for standard remote ID. That's what, because if you want to sell a transmitter, it has to have something, some kind of feature that's not on the standard one. So, and also for 107 flyers, they've got to have standard remote ID.
Yeah, but then also that brings perhaps more telemetry. Inbuilt, more usable telemetry, more sensible.
What do you need that's more usable than what we got?
Well, no, as part of your rig, that's another benefit of having that GPS in there and your rig stuff and return some. Yeah. Well, autopilot.
But what's a good? If you want to have a flight controller, you have a flight controller. It's like there's no. In which case you buy a remote ID that doesn't even have a GPS in it. But for your average line of sight model, there's nothing that a GPS is going to actually give you that is going to be of any use, is it?
Unless you add in simple flight controller functionality into the whole
thing. You can buy receivers with that already. I mean, and so I worry that so many people now they have auto launch and then they switch it into cruise mode and they watch it fly around and then they watch it, they flick a switch and they land it and that's a flight. That's no fun.
No, true enough. And also it allows them to chuck things in the sky that are only flying because of that autopilot.
That's an interesting thing, because I have the Atom RC Swordfish and the Atom RC Penguin. And the way I've always flown, models before is I trim them out without the flight controller on the circuit. So I go pass-through mode, just manual mode, trim them out, and then I enable the flight control. Because if your plane's not properly trimmed, the flight controller can compensate, but it's always working hard. So that's the way I've generally done it. But neither the Swordfish nor the Penguin fly well without a flight controller providing some stability. That you saw my video, that thing was a nightmare in manual mode, total nightmare, because the throws are so big for a start. But the response to the throttle changes is crazy. And with the Penguin, when you pull the nose up, if you're going slow, it just wants to go up and stall. It's like the CG is too far back. But then again, if you're flying along with the CG in the right position and you open the throttle, it wants to go for the sky, which is indicative of a CG that's too far forward because you're carrying too much elevated trim. When you open up the throttles, it wants to climb. So I move the CG back, and then it does a nice, far less, aggressive climb, but it has that sort of negative stability in pitch. So it's like, but you put the flight controller in, it's fine. So it's a model that's designed for flight controller, and it has not enough inherent stability to fly without it. And that, I think, is, I'm not happy with models like that, to be totally honest. Although if you buy it and it's got a flight controller built in, I guess you can't complain.
Well, it's also going to be an issue of efficiency as well. If if the thing is able to hold itself in a high alpha with power more than it should be using, people, should be watching that and trimming it correctly. So that's why I would trim an aircraft to fly hands off and correctly, is to try and get it to fly as efficiently as possible rather than fighting against that controller. But I'm stunned that people, I can bring it back round to my friend there who now flies the big stuff. He just bought, a few years ago, he just bought a thing with a flight controller in it and chucked it. His first ever model aircraft flight was, well, chuck this. and then any real thought of that, just trusted the manufacturer that everything would be right, and it was. So maybe I'm coming at this thinking from the wrong angle. But if you can't fly it without a flight controller, then you can't fly it, in my humble opinion. And
maybe that's just the way the world's going. It's fly-by-wire for models, just like it is for full size.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you can't fly one of these new fighter jets with the computers turned off. It would just fall out of the sky because it's negatively stable. But maybe that's the way models are going, and it's just a different thing. So that's the way I'm going to review it, from the basis that it is a model that is designed from the ground up with a flight controller. And if you're someone that wants a manual model, it may not be the best model, but with the flight controller in it, away you go. Stick it into self-leveling or air mode, and it's it flies as you would expect it to.
We don't need the fighter pilot, the fighter's ability to shoot the thing down coming behind you because it will fall on its back. We're going wrong. A cool cat saying, I've got my BDI and a penguin. I like so much stuff, which I'll never buy.
The Penguin does. It's a nice compact model, which is really good. It's easy to cart around. It's also quite resilient because somebody crashed it onto the runway and it didn't break. The wing come off, but it clips back on. So it's, you might say, but if you look by that definition, Anthony, then the F-35 is also a bad airframe because it relies on. Ooh, you've got light, Gary. It relies on the computer to make it flyable.
This isn't good. The fact that the lights are coming back on is why 42 minutes off. What's happened? Don't like it. I don't like it. The trouble is, it might mean, now we're going to have an unexpected 9 hours off tomorrow or something.
And you don't have solar yet.
I've only got a tiny bit. I've got to get more. I've got to sell a car, and then I'll have a decent amount of solar and do it.
What about just an old generator? Have you got a 2 kilowatt generator you can use for lighting?
Got a generator. It's really expensive. It's really loud. It's outside, and I can't be asked. We've got to pump water, but I've changed how my water works, so I don't have to use it anymore. But
you can't say water works at your age.
Can I? Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. It is expensive to running the diesel generator to pump water. So
can't you use old cooking oil?
Yeah, probably. It's public holiday here tomorrow, so we got touch wood, we won't get any load shedding for that, but we'll see. But what I was going to say, that's right. I remember what I was going to say now. This load shedding has accelerated the adoption of renewable energy in South Africa quite dramatically, and the citizens have already bought enough solar to offset quite a few stages of load shedding, so that we're ending up at a point where those people that are currently paying for power won't need to pay for power.
but it's
because they're
just
making
putting
it
off.
themselves. And we give away a lot of electricity. A lot of people get electricity for free, but
You bring your own bag.
no one's exactly, yes, exactly. But it's not one with net, not a netting one. You can't bring a net for you. It's got to be a solid bag. But we're going to end up with a situation where nobody's paying for electricity because a huge section of society doesn't pay for it, and then those that do are going solar. So it's a big problem's coming.
Yeah, there's a bigger problem coming too, from what I read, because apparently like solar panels have got a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. And at the end of that period, when the output drops low or they simply fail, there's no recycling in place because there's not enough value in the materials to warrant the recycling. Like there's only a tiny amount of silicon in the glasses, like, glass is not worth anything. And so there's already big problems in the UK with people that installed this stuff at the turn of the century are basically replacing their panels, and there's nothing to do with you can't do anything with the old ones. And they also contain trace elements which are like arsenic and cadmium, which if they just dump them, they'll leach into the water table. So there's a looming environmental problem with all the solar.
Wow. Yeah. There's definitely, it's definitely not, a complete answer, but it's part of the answer. I'm amazed. Tope saying you can put 10 kilowatt BYD cells at €2,500 in the EU. That's extraordinary. That's absolutely extraordinarily cheap. There's no way we would get them here for that money. There's no way. But oh goodness me.
Can't you build a wind generator?
Yeah, that would definitely be part of up on this hilltop here. That could definitely be part of my solution, and also pumped storage with water, because billions of liters of water just below me here, and it's a big enough tank, and use that another time. So, yeah,
And
no,
on hot calm days, you could use it to create a gentle breeze as well.
yeah, absolutely. Or what you turn on the wind? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Just imagine the size of motor you'd have to do that. Has anybody? Yeah, it's like the perpetual motion thing, isn't it? I'm amazed how people don't. It does keep coming up every once in a while. Oh, we'll put a DC motor on a propeller on the aircraft as we go along, and we'll charge the batteries as we go. If we're going downhill, be free energy.
Have you
That will
made
come
some
back around.
LK99 yet? Have you made your own bit of LK99?
What's LK90? I don't
That's
even
the
know what
room
that is.
temperature semiconductor. That's all the news at the moment. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Excellent.
a whole lot of it, and that's completely rubbish, isn't it?
Well, it's yet undetermined. I think they mistook diamagnetism for superconductivity. So it might be just a case of some bad science.
Topes are 5 meters a second. Yeah, the small wind is interesting, isn't it? It's a very interesting topic for being kind of inefficient. But I think there must be potential there for a clever person to come up with something.
Remember, we had those guys with kites on a string that were going to do energy generation.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes,
They was
yes,
going to
yes.
wheel it in, winch it out, and so forth. Are they still
Yeah.
going? Oh, they are.
Well, uh-oh.
You set your moth on fire.
Yeah. Whatever you do, there's a small fire on the keyboard there. So I blew the candle out. What was I going to say? I was going to say I'll give you one of my lessons now, one of my lesson plans, but it goes through using Lego to make a windmill and turn motion through 90 degrees, etc., cogs, levers, simple machines, and all that sort of thing. And here we are, and now we are grinding our corn, and that was a really important water wheel. This was a really important machine for moving civilization on, and then we've also got the little Lego thing which gives you the power output when you spin one of the motors. Right, let's attach this to it. So we do that. I get them through gears, making it go faster and faster and more power, all that sort of thing. And then the last thing I do is, so they've made these things which are quite rickety, just to keep all the Lego cogs and things all in place. And then I say, right, well, and Mick's got 3 electric cars. BYD, one of them's BYD, I think. then you get the solar panel. As long as it's sunny day, you get a Lego solar panel thing, and you plug that in and go, look, no moving parts. Wow, so it's generating energy. Wow, yeah, yeah. So it's why did I just say all that? Whilst it has its problems, and no doubt there will be problems for years over renewable energy. It has its advantages as well.
You can renew it.
You can renew it. Exactly.
I see
Exactly.
BlackRock have invested or are setting up a $2 billion renewable energy fund in New Zealand to pay for our new renewable energy development, because we want to be 100% carbon neutral as soon as possible. And I'm thinking that is probably not a good idea, given BlackRock is going to be behind it. And the energy sector is such a critical part of any nation's infrastructure. You don't really want that much of it in private hands. And so we'll see what happens, though.
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? It depends. You can, if you depending on which audience you're talking to, green energy is fluffy, lovely, it's going to save the planet. Or the next audience, it could be renewable energy is more about your security of your system and bringing more of it in-house and at home, and geopolitical situations. Don't rely on them.
The problem is most renewables are going to be badly affected by climate disruption, as it's called sometimes, climate change, because we're going to have more cloudy days due to increased sea temperatures and greater humidity and so forth. And we're going to have more days when the wind is too extreme or doesn't exist. So your solar and your wind are going to be affected by climate disruption, not in a good way.
Yeah, that's big picture thinking.
I think open nuclear reactors, so we can all toast our marshmallows at the same time. That would be great.
Open nuclear reactors. Where'd you get that open source thing for? Open nuclear reactors. That'd be a great web page. That'd be a fantastic web page to set up.
Bring your old Radian watch and contribute to the cause.
Exactly.
They don't make watches with radium on the displays anymore, do they? Since all those ladies died? No.
That's right. Well, hey, again, another pull up a sandbag. But when I was in Ecuador years ago in the 90s, we had all sorts of old cockpits from the Second World War and things like that, and bits of dials and that. And some people came and took them all away because they all had radium dials. They all got taken away. You can't have that anymore.
Health and safety strikes again.
Yeah, terrorist. World gone mad. That was in the late 80s. So,
yeah. It's amazing. I wonder how much health and safety is impacting our ability to innovate and come up with new ideas.
A little bit, and well, it's the taking risk, because I think when we had John Parker on, we went down that risk-taking chat, didn't we? I think that's part of it, the ability to take risk.
But it must be adversely affecting the average IQ, because stupid people survive thanks to health and safety. And then they go on to breed. That's what happens.
Isn't that merit? There's a movie that's based around that premise, isn't it?
Oh, Idiocracy. Yeah.
Idiocracy. Yes. So are we there? Are we living that? That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people doing solar in the comments, aren't they?
They are. Well, this audience, our dear viewers, are technology minded, and let's be honest here, chaps, you probably wanted to fiddle about and muck about with it a bit and see what it was all about as well. But yeah, it's the right audience that would be able to cobble together their own systems and be clever enough to sort it all out.
I just thought of something. Talking about repurposing acronyms, the DNS live stream could be drone and solar.
Drone and solar, yeah. Quick,
let's
do that right now. All right,
open new markets.
Yeah. Well, again, pull up a sandbag. 2010 at Farnborough, I charged the aircraft I flew and this display from a portable solar unit, and that was part of my gig. We could be anywhere in the world as long as the sun's out. We can charge the batteries, and it is a big problem. I can't remember how many kilowatts Luke said he used on his latest big flights, but it was a huge amount of kilowatts of power he needed in the end for his 5,000 kilometer survey. And it's one of the sort of forgotten puzzle pieces of this whole, we're going to deploy 1 million drones here or whatever. Well, How are you going to power them in the middle of nowhere?
That'll be the next thing. I'll bet you someone in this urban air mobility thing comes up with a new plan to put solar panels on the roof of their air taxi, and that will extend the range and provide the ability to land in areas where there's no recharging, and people will go, "That's fantastic! Let's throw money at them." But also that what John's got there, I read about that. Yeah, it's interesting. Would you want that much energy stored in the foundations of your house in case something goes wrong?
Yeah. Oh God, mate, it's concrete.
And I think it's also, I don't know that even a super cap that big is going to have enough energy density to be worthwhile.
What happens when it's hit by lightning? Do you get a free bonus 2 years power?
Supercharger. It's called a supercharger.
Supercharger, yeah. Gosh,
a lot of these ideas, the theory's good, but the practice, they just don't come to fruition.
Yeah, Jerome's asking that. Unfortunately, we're the wrong people to ask, aren't we?
Oh, no. The DJI Air Drone 3 is fantastic. A link in the description, affiliate.
There we are. Ian's not here. Ian would be the person to ask. There's probably someone in the comments that will be able to give you.
How many drones do you need? How many drones does anybody need? Everyone's got a Mavic, an original Mavic. They've got a Mini 2 or a Mini 3. What's the air? Slightly better camera, better low light, 1-inch sensor, so you get the bokeh, get some depth of field, focus things. I mean, really, how many drones do you need? Because I look at these people that do reviews, and like Stu from UAV Future, he's got a wall of drones behind him. He's got hundreds of drones, and I would have hundreds of drones if I hadn't given them all away, because I only need 2 or 3 drones. And so if I don't need a drone, I give it to someone who can use it and enjoy it and so forth. I just don't see the point in accumulating massive numbers of drones. It's better to have 1 or 2 drones that you know extremely well and can use to the full abilities of their functionality than to have so many drones that, you don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, well, the little 250-gram thing that I have is the auto is fantastic. It's everything I need for
Alan's keeps falling out of the sky. Alan Hughes one keeps falling out of the sky.
Does it? No,
yeah, he's crashed twice now.
Perfectly fine. Yeah. Wow.
He even sent it back for repairs, which was a major hassle because they said it was free shipping, but they charged him for the shipping and all the hassles. And then he got it back and he was flying it the other day and it just fell out of the sky. It just said basically loss of signal and then plunged to the earth. He didn't even do an auto return and land. It just plunged to the ground. So
auto return to Mother Earth. There's been it was quite interesting, and maybe someone in the comments will know. But I'm mentioning the September 1st thing because Autel is just about to bring out a bigger platform, which will completely fall within that remit. They say, "Oh no, they're moving to Vietnam. They're moving into Vietnam. They're going to produce store there." And I've seen it in 2 or 3 places now. It's like, well, logic tells you, bloody hell, you've got to be quick if you build your factory between now and September the 1st. But I wonder.
It'll be made of bamboo and rice paper or something, won't it?
It's the Top Gear time now. It's the Top Gear cancelling. Well, go in a minute. We'll slope off. It's just, yeah. I can't see it. And
there'll be better drones because they'll have orientation built into them.
There you go. It's that's why we orientate the map, isn't it? After the Orients.
Yep.
We used to always put them to the east, didn't we? But anyway,
the home position has been forgotten.
Yeah, bad things came from the north. It just surprises me that Autel seem to be driving very well. Well, I really want to say the narrative that we're not really Chinese. No one is not really a Chinese company. Look, we get some of our bits are made in America. Some of them,
look, Ian's here. What's he doing here?
Yeah, this Ian will do it.
There you go.
Hello. I thought I can't just leave it the 2 of you.
Well, you've bloody left us for 58 minutes.
Yeah,
How you doing, mate?
All right.
You've had enough. Have we talked about the deep ocean sub accident? That wasn't an accident. It was going to happen, John. It was going to happen. I don't think that's an accident. I don't know. What do you guys think?
The Ocean Gate thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, personally, I don't view it entirely as an accident. An accident would really, if a set of events has come about that you probably couldn't foresee. Where here it seems to be, it reminds me of like test QA process behind everything. You know, it's like that's why I have a bit of an issue with Tesla with FSD. Usually testing something in production, and here's a similar kind of thing where the industry has set standards about how you go about testing something, and that wasn't followed. And I think whenever you don't follow industry-wide standards, you're fairly open to criticism when things go wrong. So, I mean, the one thing you can say about the guy is he seems sincere in what he believes. So, I don't think he was entirely, you know, if someone's like really arrogant about it, they've got lots of money and they don't care, and they know there's safety issues and they don't want to tackle.
Oh, he's gone quiet, eh?
He's flashing now.
Must be cold in the UK. He's frozen.
He's frozen in his shed.
But he's right, though, because the guy went down with the sub. So he's obviously confident in his stuff because he wasn't afraid to go down in there. So there was obviously that side of things.
But it was it all. And I think he was probably, I think my internet just cut off for a second there.
No, it is. Really? You came back saying stuff.
Yeah. I think the Ocean Gate guys got onto my internet and just went and snipped.
2 of our cables to here have gone down this week, actually, and it is affecting international traffic. But James' reason model, if you remove all the barriers, hang on, I've got to go back up to that comment. All the barriers, you have no holes to line up. Yes, like in the Swiss cheese model. Yeah, just.
I was going to add, I think it's actually on Freevee, which is the free Amazon TV channel, certainly in the UK. But they've got the documentary with James Cameron when he went and did the deep dive, and you saw all the all the processes they went through to test their submersible, which that kind of shows really how you go about doing that kind of risky ocean exploration.
It was only a matter of time, just like drones, eh?
Yeah.
That's with drones. It's a bit of that's always been a lot of people that say it's only a matter of time are the kind of people often that are rubbing their hands wanting it to happen. They're usually the people making the arguments because they've got some financial gain out of making drama over drones. And drones has been different, as we've discussed in the past, just because they've got smaller and safer over time and the software's improved. Where they started off, I mean, I remember, as I mentioned before, my big drones, I started with a Vulcan frame with a NASA on it. That's terrifying to what we had these days. I remember trying to do a roof inspection with that, and I just was just terrified with the idea of trying to use a drone like that, in that you would want to be a distance away and trying to get pictures of something like that, because you'd be terrified to have that up close because you didn't have the avoidance technology that you do now, and the software. Everyone knew the NASA software was flaky.
Back in the day when flame wheel was a description, not a name.
Yeah, flame wheel was how it ended up after you've been flying it for a while, and it
all the miscreants are turning up now. Look, who's this troublemaker?
No, we've got
hello.
This is an Ian coming. Oh look, here's someone with a load of drones hanging around in the back. Wall. Like we're talking about
it's a bit of a mess.
There, Bruce.
Yeah, look, that's what we were saying. Hey, yeah,
you don't give them away. Now we had now that this Ian's arrived, there was a comment about one of those new DJI things up here. Let's get back up here and see. I don't know anything about.
I see the South Africa power situation hasn't improved.
Oh no! Weirdly, it is back. Yeah, if you look at the comments, it's all there. What's the new one? The Air 2, Air 3, Air 3.
It feels like Gary's touching my face.
It's a bit weird, isn't it? He's stroking us.
It's after midnight, so it's okay.
It feels like we're being groomed.
Again,
yeah.
So actually, what we've got stereo Ians down the bottom there. How
Yep.
so? How are stereo Ians?
I'm good. I'm all right. It's been very busy. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm actually on holiday this week. So I'm trying to get some stuff I'm massively behind on finished, basically.
Every
Well,
day's a
I
holiday for
wanted
you,
to
Ian.
give me a stroke, not David, Mick. Sorry, Mick, I don't know about that, mate. I don't know. Stroking the moth. Yeah, that was earlier. That was back when we were in Candle Power. Look at this little trophy that Sarah found in the scrapyard. It's got a little engraving on it, and it's just like, well, how do we find out who the winner of this cup was once? You know, what does it say? What does this one say? I can't see it now. We've
Geez, that'd
burnt
get
it
on
off
your wick,
with all
wouldn't
the
it?
candle. It would. It would. We find this sort of thing quite fascinating. What, oh yeah, what did you say that new Wi-Fi based
I can't remember the
video
name, with the
system was
security
called?
camera and the IP security cameras and the Wi-Fi
Have you seen
boosters.
that,
Yeah.
Ian?
Yeah, I upset them on Sunday. Is the
good.
tip I use.
Operating true to form.
I managed to. I basically completely dismissed it as nothing particularly interesting. It is
Oh.
interesting, but it isn't in the sense of OpenIPC is what it's called off the top of my
Yes,
head,
that's
and
it.
they're rewriting software for IP cameras, which is not easy, because that world has very close source software around the chipsets and everything. So that side of it is very clever. And then they're basically streaming that into a Wi-Fi adapter and transmitting it. And it's nice. Is it going to compete with anything we've got today? Probably not. There's a reason we have very custom ASICs on most of this stuff. It'll I think it has a real market in probably fixed point to point video where there's none of the potential issues of link recovery necessary and RF loss and all of the stuff that's really hard. The easy bit actually today is transmitting wireless video. The hard bit now is doing it through buildings when the quads are flying up and down and stuff like that. But I was quite dismissive of the project, almost because we've been here before. OpenHD promised us everything, and what are we, 4 years down the line, and we're still not there. So yeah, but I got quite a furious message on YouTube telling me how wrong I am about everything. So I must have hit the nail in the right place. So
if you want a more positive response to that, go back about 40 minutes when Bruce and I were talking about it. But if you don't like it, then you can choose to watch this portion of the video.
yeah,
So,
I'm not saying
good,
it's.
good,
I think it's interesting, but it's not. Look, open source, a proper open source FPV system is going to need to be based off a decent ASIC that can. It's a reason everyone is basing it off LTE. If we look at all of the systems, not HD0, Avatar HD, DJI, HD0 is doing something analog for the win, and he is right, analog for the win.
That's
And
even an analog announce, though, isn't it? That's what I like about that.
I
It's wholly
still
analog.
fundamentally agree with Bruce and believe that analog HD has a place. It's just no one really wants to run with it. But I do still think there's real potential there's a lot of analog HD tech out there, and we've just not exploited it in FPV at all. But I think it's interesting. Is it going to be another project? I tried to read up on it, and it's all in Russian. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if in a year they deliver a product that can do 5 kilometers and the link is resilient, then I'll eat something that I've got on the bench. But I think in the end it's going to be another
Jaffa cakes.
Jaffa
You have
cake.
Jaffa cakes and stuff, don't you?
I'll
That's a pretty
Jaffa
tame
cakes
promise.
Yeah, I still think
Talking about things on the bench, just to interject for a moment, Bruce, it looks like you've got a toilet roll over your left shoulder.
we don't want to know where he keeps a toilet
There,
roll.
where? Which side? There. Point to it.
Right on the video.
There.
Yeah, there we go. Where your finger is.
That's a cardboard box.
Stroking it.
Oh.
There's only one reason people have toilet roll near their computer.
Clean the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be it. Yeah.
I do know of a open source-ish system that might happen based on proprietary hardware, but that's how it's going to be. But all the ASICs are out there. We're not short of ASICs. There's a million ASICs that can do this. It now comes down to the software that you can get on those ASICs, and that's where the key is. Every smartphone is capable. We've got hundreds of smartphone processors out there that you can buy for $20, $30. So it's the key in this has been the locking of the RF baseband, and that's where the problem is.
433 is analog HD, definitely.
But the analog footage in my last video is pretty good for analog. That wing that hits the fence.
Yeah.
That's analog.
I watched a bit of it. There's still, I think there's, we've got, what are we up to now? TVL. I haven't looked for a while. I got the T-Rex, which is one of the better ones. Analog is not over. It never will be over. And as Bruce says, look, I talk a lot about digital because that's the world I've sort of in, but that doesn't mean, and look, Bruce was highly mentioned in a UAV Ventures video this week about, you don't always have to buy something new. And actually, I said something similar on the antenna video I put out yesterday. In the end, I think the conclusion I said is you don't have to replace any of this. Don't worry about it. It's actually all good now. There are a lot of ways to spend money in FPV, but also we're starting to see the cost come down again. Cheap flight controllers. Speedy B did one last week, $50. It's good. We're starting to get silicon come back down.
FPV is very much the RC car of the flying. Because they all buy blingy bits, don't they? And this, that, the other, and another body shell, and they kept model shops going for years in that regard.
Yeah, other drones is really over because you got, I don't know how many people are building bigger quads anymore. I don't think, we still, we all here remember the 450s, and it's funny because I see comments from people about this and like that, and you're just thinking, we've all, most of us have been around long enough to have seen all of this stuff develop 3 times. We've gone around the wheel 3 times on this, and I'm not sure how many people are like building like the big 450s like I've got up there. There's a flame wheel, there's another flame wheel there. You can just see the FI50 that's there. You don't see people do that anymore.
I think that there may be a change on that though, not because of people wanting to, but we're seeing. I think you on the comments on it on Facebook. I think Gary, commercial ops in the UK being told by the MOD that they don't want DJI gear being used, so that may force a few people that are specifically doing that line of work to think about maybe a cubed base pilot system or something. Because
Teal will do it. Teal to the rescue.
Teal. Yeah, well, that's where we started. Look, I had notes at the beginning. You weren't here, and I had notes and everything. $15,000 for a teal thing, which is no better than a Mavic 3 thermal. And as my note said earlier, for those,
is it as good as a Mavic 3 thermal? Do we even think it's?
No. A lot of stuff you'll pay more money, and it won't be as good from just. I think the way DJI stuff is pretty good. I am still not to DJI for the fact they still don't have good smart shots like the Solar did to this day. But that aside, they are intuitive.
I used Solar in my example of it. It stayed. It was a 2015 thing that was $1,400 with a gimbal when it came out. Well, add thermal to that for a couple of $1,000. We'll call it $5,000 back in 2015, and we'd be beating, and it wouldn't. I bet you a Solo wouldn't be far off the performance of this Teal thing now. Not far off. Yeah, it would have been, but we're talking.
And GoPro let them down in it. You think you can imagine a Solo today with a GoPro Hero 11 or 12? That is a very different craft than what they had a few years ago, and it's a shame that relationship fell apart. And look, GoPro a weird company because they keep doing things that everyone wants, like the session camera. Everyone wants this square, smaller camera, yet they seem to refuse to want to make it. And they keep, DJI have just released their new Hero 4, which on paper is still not as good as a GoPro. And it looks like GoPro have a new camera around the corner. But I have got a video coming on this actually, but where DJI really win, and this is something I think that's really gone under the radar, is in the replacements. Because DJI are now charging you upfront 30 quid for 2 years coverage, and you can have a replacement within that for 20 quid every time you do it. We worked it out. You can have 4 replacements in 2 years for £90, whereas GoPro is £100 each replacement.
It shows you how much it actually costs to
Yeah.
make those cameras, doesn't it?
It does. But I also think, Bruce, they're using it as a lever to try and get into the market. So I think the math I worked out is if you break 4 GoPros in that period, it would cost you $800. The DJI would cost you $480 all in. So that's the difference. The price of the GoPro and the 4 replacements would be like $800 with GoPro and $480 with DJI. So there is a very real benefit for the people who are smashing these things up.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're just so big and heavy now. Because I mean, look at what they've done with the Avata. Look at this good little camera, and the electronics is small, obviously, because it's in the Avata. Why can't they produce something like the Session with the capabilities of 4K and the things that we want?
Yeah, I mean, GoPro are never about giving the customer value. You know, I'm not really. I think if you're really into cameras, once you've had your experience of GoPro for a while, you wouldn't touch them again. I'd never buy a GoPro again, because all they ever do is essentially release almost an identical camera every year, just adding stuff to the firmware they could have put in the previous model. So they are, to be honest, as a consumer, they're pretty much taking you for mugs.
They are
really, and really their customer base is from people that are ignorant to that. But I think anyone that stays in their ecosystem for a while realizes that and thinks, actually, you know, I'm not putting up with this anymore. That's why brands like the Panasonic Lumix have a lot of loyalty, because Panasonic will support them over the years and put the firmware in there, and you feel you've got a good investment out of the money you've paid. And for me as a consumer, that's always really important and key. You know, even if you haven't got the features that maybe another camera's got, I know that, you know, over time, if they can actually do that in the firmware, that'll come along.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, no one has really caught up to GoPro with image quality yet. They are still just the dynamic range, the overall. They still have the legs on DJI. Even the actions, they've struggled. It's that last 10%. You know what I mean, Ian? You know, it's the same as going from 4/3 to full frame. There's just something you gain when you just go, like moving up to the S5, as you know, when we went up to that, it's just like there's just that little bit extra that it brings to the table.
I just wonder if there is, though. I never felt the GoPro has all been awesome. I think, especially their marketing videos, they're always done in perfect conditions to make it look good. And if you try and use a GoPro in anything other than perfect conditions, try and use it in an evening of that, you know.
DJ's even worse, I'll be honest.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But those kind of things, you know, tend to fall apart.
Is everyone grabbing small drones?
No, nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. No, don't get in on a trend.
There's a small
one. We're trendsetters.
I've got a small one. Everyone knows it.
Your wife was telling us the other night, actually.
I can't beat any of you. All I can get you is Ark.
He brings out an Ark, something from the Ark. That's terrible.
But I think the small ones they're flipping good fun.
Yeah. It's not the size; it's how you use it that counts.
It is. It is.
That's what everyone with a small one says.
So Jason has a small one. Is that a way we finish this conversation? This part of the conversation just by saying Jason has a small one? Yeah, no, I completely agree. They are.
Did you mention about the A3 earlier? Because obviously DJI put that out. I missed tonight. I was doing something.
We all said we want one.
To be fair, their biggest problem is they're really cannibalizing themselves now, because there's been 3 people who I trust have all gone, I'm getting rid of the Mavic 3 and I'm going to use the A3, because the benefit of the Micro Four Thirds isn't enough. The cost saving, the batteries, the flight time, and just the overall experience of it's a little bit tidier because it's a lighter quad. And yeah, DJI are just again fighting with themselves. They put out a drone which is now going to compete with their last best-selling drone, and yeah, they're really in a weird position because they just keep making products. There's no, Autel don't exist anymore. I still don't know what's really going on with them. There was a bit of noise. Did they put something out, a thermal thing this week, Gary? Did you get
They're
the press
putting out,
release?
there's a new, there's a there's still a secret.
Oh, the secret
What's
with
it
pictures of
called?
it on a bench. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's called not the Astros. I can't remember
Yeah.
what it's called. But yeah, well, I mentioned that earlier before you deigned to join us. That that people are saying, because I said, well, this falls exact. This is a contender for the September the 1st China ban on weight,
Yeah.
size, endurance, and thermal. And people said, oh no, they're going to make them in Vietnam and whatever. I was like, really? When did I miss the memo about them moving the factory?
Yeah, and it'll happen until the Chinese government says it doesn't. I was talking to a vendor over there about this whole new ban, and someone who was very off the record, and everyone was looking at what they do and how it might be affected. But they really said it's going to be really simple. The government will make a decision on the businesses they want to allow trade, and they'll leave them alone, and the businesses they don't, they won't. And it's going to come down to that. And everyone's going to try and stay under the radar as much as they can. I don't think it's going to have a real effect on anything at all. This ban, I don't think. I don't think you'll see it'll affect GJI. I don't think it'll affect much.
Just going back to cameras for a moment, those GoPros and the Osmo, so damn expensive. You can buy a really good little camcorder for that price, and you get optical zoom, and you get all sorts of other features that those action cameras don't have. So unless you actually need the ability to bounce it off tall buildings, camcorders are a better option for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, they are. They are expensive. £400, $400 roughly for the GoPros and the DJIs. I'm not sure how much a Sony ZV-1 is around that, which is a really good handheld.
See, if I were looking at that, spending that kind of money, it looks second hand. I bet you could get a GH5 for that.
But why would you want to unless you've got a boat and you worry it's going to drift away?
Yeah, you probably, don't upset me. And you telling me my GH5 is only worth £500 now. That's a disappointing.
Well, you think that's bad? Yeah. The S5 and S1 for around 700.
No, you're really upsetting me now.
Yeah. I sold an S1 with 3 batteries and a few other extras for around 750 just in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But it's because the S5 II is such a good camera at around $2,000 that it's just pushed everything else right down in price.
The problem
and also now you get smartphones with that software, and you get the bokeh and everything with the little smartphone. It's really brilliant.
The problem is we're in this weird position where there's a lot of companies struggling right now. We're going to have to wait and see how it ends up at the end of the year. You're still going to see a few, I think, fall away. Camera industry struggling, has been for 4 or 5 years. If Lumix survived, we'd be devastated if they didn't. But Panasonic must be in trouble. They're not the business they were.
I think with the camera bit, they're all right. Because the S5, I know, was one of the UK's best-selling cameras, so it was up there in about the top 3. And I imagine, the S5 II must be selling really well. A lot of people that have got the S1H, which is fantastic, it was at $3,000 originally, are parting with those and getting the S5 just because it's more compact and you've got the autofocus. So I think the fact they've got the phase detect autofocus now, whichever one it is, I think that's the one it is. But it's because it works so effectively. They've ticked all the boxes people wanted out of them. So I'm pretty confident they'll be sound. But I do think the general point's valid though. The camera market has been really competitive. So many people are using, they're using their camera phone instead. That
now they've got anamorphic on the new iPhone. That's fantastic too, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think they have the you wanted me.
And it's the same with drones. Look, when we look at it, 99% of people don't need anything more than the Mini 3 Pro. And, if we look at, it's the same with camera drones. 99% of people do not need any more than that Mini 3 Pro. That Mini 3 Pro is good enough for most people. The Mavic Air 3, the Mavic 3 are all very nice. People don't need those products.
If it's good enough for an auditor, it's good enough for me.
It's yeah, Bruce is. Are you going to be auditing the council, Bruce?
Oh yeah.
But
there's cameras, as you know, you 3 love them. I can't, beyond me. The thing that I thought was quite interesting was this. Maybe it's not interesting at all, but it's the Bamboo Labs filament for foaming for making model
Yes.
aircraft
Lightweight PLA.
that came out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was very.
We've all been
interesting
using that for
because, of
years,
course-
Gary.
Oh, have you?
It's called
Oh,
balsa.
there we go.
You didn't get the memo.
Yeah, they've been working on it for a while. I was told about it. I don't have any. I need to order a spool, but they had
Is
been
it-
working on it for a while.
Is it different to the other lightweight PLAs?
It's
Well,
it's not really different, but it's their own mix. But they've been working with one of the model guys on getting something out there to really fill that world. And it hasn't been the easiest thing to print. I do know that. It took some tuning to get it right.
You get a lot of stringing.
but I think but the fact that it's from a company built by ex-DJI engineers who have
Yes.
been into flying for their whole time, to me, that's very interesting. It's very interesting.
So
And
is this the one they advertise on YouTube? Engineers
Ex-DJI.
leave and start a company, and it's fun. And
it is,
they
that's
patents have
exactly it.
expired,
Yeah,
and
the-
that's
the
why they're
patent
doing it. I thought-
expired.
I will say that
Unfortunately, is immediately what comes to mind.
It is, it
when
is.
you say that. But
I will say this about the Bamboo, and look, I've got a few videos on them coming on more helpful stuff. Okay, I got the review to come of the P1S, but then I've been doing some more content around them because people aren't really doing that in the 3D printing world. What you tend to find in the 3D printing world is here's how I print, or here's how I think this printer is. But what you don't get is the sort of stuff we've been doing in the drone world for ages is like, hey, this is how you set the printer up to do that. This is how you set it to do this. The product is very, very polished. There is no question there is DJI DNA in there. The look, the feel, the engineering, you as someone who's had a lot of time around DJI products, you look at this and just go, I see the DNA. It's frighteningly good to use. Look, I'm really lucky. There's the new Creality, which they sent me this week, and it's okay. And they're trying to compete with Bamboo, but you've got to get up really early to get on top of someone like DJI. And it's the same here. Honestly, the bloody things just work. The video I have got this week is about taking back control. So a lot of people don't like this, and there will be issues people have with this, which is every print you do wirelessly on the printer goes through Bamboo. So the way their printers work is that the printer connects to their cloud server. So if you want to use the full wireless functionality, you say your print goes to their server and then down to the printer. Now, obviously, that is an issue. You don't have to do that. You can simply put it on an SD.
Use Octoprint.
You can do it on an SD card, but they also have a LAN mode, which you have to turn on. But you can, and that's what I'm talking you through tomorrow, which takes it out of the cloud and brings it to your local network only. What's quite annoying is you have to do that as an option. What I think is really good on the Creality is when you go to print, they give you three options. Print it to an SD card and plug it into the printer, send it directly to the printer that's on your network, or send it to the cloud. And that's what Bamboo need to do. What you shouldn't have to do is add a mode to then change it to go and do that. What they should just say is, if it picks up the printer on your network, why does that print need to go to China before going to the printer?
It's the Chinese government. They're spying through 3D printers now. They'll be banned. They'll be banned.
Got
Been all of
cameras
that
and
talk,
knife.
Bruce. There has been all of that talk. So there are elements of them that are very DJI. Let's not, you sort of look at this and go, yeah,
Been here before.
I've been here before, but you can wrestle control back. But there are their reasons for it. But yeah, I think they need to do what Creality have done, which is give you the three. And there are advantages to send it to the server because it stays on the server for you. So it's actually quite handy. So if there's a problem or it's not stored on the printer, you can just click a button, it's there, and download it. But obviously, that's not going to be the case. But there's a lot of rumors and whispers that you can't print manually. You absolutely can. You can just put it on an SD card and put it into the site. It's
Or you could
fine.
just get a Raspberry Pi out of an old scooter somewhere and set up Octoprint, and you can do it all.
Well, yeah, these you can, but yeah. So we talk about local data mode, but they are very, very good bits of kit. To be fair to them, they are destroying the printer industry as we know it from a price.
That's got to be
Are
good
they?
news. Yeah.
Oh, they've walked in and kicked. Like, Creality owned the bottom end, but you had then this mid end, which was Prusa, who had a big following, and then your high end, which is Volron and on the others. You know, a Prusa now is still £900 as a kit. That's an open source printer, but you can get a P1S for £7. So they have walked in and delivered an out the box solution for less money. Does it remind us of anyone? Yeah, it's the DJI thing all over again.
But you buy a printer for $100.
The thing that gets me with 3D printing is, though, that these printers that aren't any hassle, they're all too expensive. Because I wanted some 3D prints done recently, and I just wouldn't be compelled at all to get a 3D printer. There's companies that are now available on the net where you can just, you can put up your file that you want printed, and they'll print it out for you, on proper commercial 3D printers, and you're getting something that's really strong, really well printed. So I just did that instead, for the amount they get printed, I'd have to be spewing stuff out like I was manufacturing it to make it worthwhile to actually go
Just
buy it.
get one of those cheap $99 ones from Banggood or whatever.
They do.
Gary's got one.
Produce low quality items like this.
That's fantastic, Gary.
The funny thing is, and I explained this to someone the other day, the real difference between an expensive and a cheap 3D printer is the amount of time you will lose.
And
that's
price.
the difference. And the price. But I mean, you can buy a cheap one and you may end up putting 3 hours into it and getting great results. You may end up putting 30 hours into it and getting great results. The thing with something like the Bamboo is you turn it on and it just works. But in the end, you can get the same results. You really can get very similar results.
$79 printer. Look at that. Fantastic.
So I had a feeling it was
$599. The first one starts at.
That's not too bad. You've got the fancy one that's a lot more money than
I got
that.
both. Yeah, I got the P1S, which is $699, which is encased, which does ABS. Depends if you need to print ABS or not. You only need an encased printer if you want to print dyno-based filaments, really.
Or nylon, yeah.
Or nylon, yeah. Anything, either dyno-based or nylon. But otherwise, the open carcass is $599.
What's the more expensive one, though?
The 1000, the X1 Carbon. So
£1,000.
That is a different printer in many ways. It's hardened. The gearing is hardened materials, so it's hardened hot end, hardened gears, a better processor because it's got a touch screen and stuff. But what I will say is this: for 99% of people, it's not worth the upgrade. Genuinely.
No, I'm just trying to think how I would ever justify $599 or £1,000 what I would print. It's like, how much stuff have you got to need to 3D print for you to actually earn that money back? And it's hard to imagine that anybody could, unless you 3D printed all the furniture in your house.
Yeah. Gary's going to print his furniture. Yeah, Bruce's. Yeah, and it depends what you want. Like, I print a lot of stuff for my kids. That's, I print toys all of the time. I was printing tanks for my boy yesterday, and look, yeah, but that's just fun stuff. I don't run a print farm. I do know someone who runs a full print farm with these things, and he was very much a Prusa farm. He's now moving over to the Bamboos.
I don't know how you can make money doing 3D printing on a commercial basis because they take so long.
It's the energy costs as well for me. You add in the energy cost, the time, and 3D printer is always that rule of leave it and it will bite you. Now, someone's beeping.
Battery's about to go up. There's the fire alarm.
I forgot I left something on a battery.
What's Gary got here? What on earth is that?
Is he carrying his printer in?
I don't know. No, it's
he
something.
Printed someone's skull or something. That looked like a rounded head.
Well, this was the scale up for the $79, but Sarah's done the testing in the sun of where's it going? She's done the testing of the melting point of the plastic by leaving it outside. But I scaled this up in there. So you're talking about a price and all that sort of thing and making it cost effective.
Yeah.
So the $79 printer was cheaper than they were going to charge me to scan a little thing and scale it up. So I did it myself. So this is paid off. This is now bronze. This is the plastic version, but this is a bronze in a gallery now.
Okay.
It's only paid off though because you bought such a cheap printer.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It has, but I reckon I don't think it would take much to make £1,000 printer pay off if you
Yeah, what I love
You know,
about them, it's like today, I've just built a quad that I'm testing some new hardware on, and I needed a special bracket and stuff like that. That is the real great thing, because I can sit here and go, oh, I need something to hold that. I can design it, and 20 minutes later, I've got it, and I can move on.
Yeah.
That's the cool. I did something the other day. My friend has crazy shower doors. He has these sliding shower doors, and where they mounted onto the rails, there was holes in the glass, and there was these plastic sort of isolators, and they just broke apart. And I designed and 3D printed them at a TPU for that. And it's another thing I did the other day. My crazy thing. My wife's SodaStream. You know the SodaStream machines. Well, they have an inherent fault with the button on the top snaps, and my wife's did. And these things are like 90 quid. So I went on Thingiverse. Someone has already made a new button that I printed and fixed it in 20 minutes. And that is the great thing. Now, does it pay back? No, not necessarily printing buttons here and there. But what it does is it allows you to just feel like you're not dumping crap into the world all of the time. You have the ability to fix stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing with that though,
Yeah.
is that
No,
yeah, that looks like it needs to go in the bin, Bruce.
That's where I was going to go.
That said, that I do like 3D printing because of the fact it is allowing us to do things. In fact, I might go down and get something in a second, bring it up as an example. But it's allowing us to do things we wouldn't have been able to do before, because people are able to think, actually, it'd be great if I could build that part, and this will allow me to do that. But the one you mentioned, we've got, I think the company's called, I think Joseph or Jacob, I can't remember what it is, but it's some fancy bin that costs 100 quid. And the button you press to open the bin, that broke, and we contacted the company, and you'd think if we spent £100 on a bin, they would at least reply and say, here's the part to buy. Or even better, if you spent that much money on a bin, you think they'd say, here, free, we'll send you one out. It's like KEF speakers are expensive. But I came and jumped one day, knocked one over, knocked the ports off the back, told them, and they sent them out free, because, it was about the customer service. But they didn't even reply. I went on eBay, and there's a bloke that's printed the bit that breaks. The thing that got me with that is it's a plastic piece in it. So they probably even know it breaks over time, and they're hoping you buy an entire new bin lid or an entire new bin. And I could just buy that piece, clip it in, boom, it's back and it's working.
And that's what I did with the SodaStream. Yeah.
And that's what we're missing these days as well, because we do put too much in the bin, and that frustrates me. I'd rather fix things.
Do you know what it is for me? It's the closest I've got to a Star Trek replicator. I can walk over and press a button, and it makes something, and that's as close. It's that I'm inches away from computer. Make me a that's what it is.
But it does need to be doing food.
Yeah. I imagine ChatGPT.
I enjoy sort of the idea, like iterative design. I went from this to this, but I need to see the thing. I can make the thing.
Yeah.
But I need to see the thing. So then I see this thing, then I see this thing, and then that ended up as that thing.
Yeah.
And and that whole process. And now I found myself the other day. I thought about it. I put on the sort of music I would have listened to when I was making balsa aeroplanes when I was about 14, and I was busy designing away, and I was thinking, hang on a minute, this is all, and it gave me that feeling of construction, weirdly, of making.
Well, 2 seconds. I'm going to bring up some technology that I've used on 3D printing.
It is, and look, I've done a lot with printers for years, but I spent less time on them in the last few years. But I have found a home with them again a bit more now, just because they've got a bit. You spend a lot of time messing with them, and then you get really frustrated with them a little bit. I think it's finally got to the stage where it's actually reliable now. Printing is actually reliable now for the most part.
I've got that FL Sun Delta printer, and that's just worked. I've never had to do it's auto bed leveling and all this sort of crap. I just put filament in the top and it spits stuff out the bottom. It's great.
Yeah, and you get to where's my where's the one who makes me do things? He's hiding again. Where is he?
Well, Cool Cat says making balsa planes teaches delayed gratification. Well, that's in this case that's the design process for me, because it takes me bloody hours.
And how to apply band-aids.
It's anamorphic.
Ah,
yeah.
Ian's camera rig.
Yeah, so mentioning anamorphic, but this is where 3D printing comes in. So the problem you got when you're shooting with a camera, especially with anamorphic, where it's compressed the picture down, is actually seeing it clearly. So the normal screens you get on the back of the camera, you know, they're not good enough.
No.
The EVFs you get are normally not good enough, and they don't tilt. So there's a brand called I don't know how you pronounce it correctly necessarily, but Zacuto, a US make. These are really expensive to have an EVF with those. Normally it's about, you know, 1,500, $2,000. And then someone's come up with this ingenious idea. This back bit's a brand called Portkeys. That's like a Chinese brand, and their EVF system costs about 300 quid. But the trouble is the optics on it are rubbish. So someone came up with a little 3D printed piece here, so that you can take. I'll see if I can take it off while I speak to you, as an example.
Just
it's
break
always
it.
a bit fiddly, this though. Oh, there we go. So that's actually the expensive bit of optics that you could buy off eBay for around about 50 to 100 quid. They sell brand new for about 400. But so you basically you spent about 50 quid on that. The 3D print cost me 7 quid. I've then got Portkeys, which was 300. But that, so really I've spent there under 500, lightly under 400, and that to buy the equivalent viewfinder would have cost me 1,500 quid to $2,000. So I can actually use this. I don't have to punch in, and I can see an absolutely pin sharp picture. And just for anyone interested, that's the Sigma FP that records raw cinema DNG. So it's you get an absolutely beautiful picture out of that. So I'm hoping to make use of this in the coming weeks. But yeah, that's why 3D printing is cool just for people coming up with these little ideas. And people that are selling their little Z Finder eyepieces are all loving it, because they were selling on eBay for next to nothing, you know, so they might be going for 10, 20 quid, and they're now worth 50 to 100 quid overnight just for that one 3D printed piece.
Well, it's just like earlier when everybody in the comments was talking about solar power. Again, this audience is predisposed to mucking about with stuff like this. It
is.
We need a collective noun. Nerds doesn't really work, does it? But it's, you know, there's some flipping clever people, and Bruce in the comments.
A gaggle of geeks.
A gaggle of geeks.
There we are. But we are predisposed to this sort of thing, and to see the Bamboo Labs printers just seemingly from the outside shill the chair there, press and go. It's very impressive.
It's pretty good. And look, the Creality is like that as well. It's getting there, but it's got a whole host of other things. It's spamming me at the moment, which I'm trying to solve. I've installed it up on my phone, and every 3 hours it sends me a message with some nonsense. So I'm trying to fix that at the moment.
Builder's going to build it. Yeah, that is true, isn't it? Regardless of what it is, find some spurious reasons to muck about with stuff. Well, again, another plop of sandbag from me today. I got the Autel out and making a Pix 4D 3D model of the school chapel just as a process, and so they don't get taught technical drawing these days. The youngsters don't get taught technical drawing, and it's such a basic thing. There's this great rush. I'm the technology teacher. There's a great rush to go to do it all on a computer. But it's like, hang on a minute. If you can't do it with a pencil and paper, it's no good jumping straight to the computer.
I tell you what I did. I've seen on the other day. You say about that where you were on about taking the drone out to do some pictures. We've been watching this program on Disney with the kids, and I can't remember which one it is. It's about the guy. He lost the bottom half of his leg a year or two ago, and he's an adventure.
Does he look down the back of the sofa? That's where Riley's stuff. It always turns up down the back of the sofa.
He had a quad accident. Well, he's like an adventurer, but he's also a scientist, and he really uses drones in all of his stuff for mapping, LiDAR, and you know, there's a lot of it in that footage, and it's amazing the technology he's showing. You know, they're doing stuff like aerial photography, overlapping that with LiDAR photography from above, and then putting that all into like Pix 4D. They're not showing you the software, but then building point cloud maps and showing you some amazing stuff. And they did one today, which was they did a full set of external images with an Inspire 2, and then they did the internal images of this pyramid with LiDAR and overlaid the two so you could see where the corridors were inside the pyramid. And it was incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yes. Yeah, well, I show them that, and I show them Pix4D, but it's got to. If you're then going to build it up, it's easy working. Like, I wasn't really into model railways. I did have model railway, but then I knew what AA scale was, and I used to make buildings for it and all that sort of thing. They don't do that. They don't make stuff at all, really. And we've got to change that. But anyway, that's my it's kind of off-topic rant. But there's some core basic skills that are really missing in youngsters that will help. What's John saying? Degree, photogrammetry, yeah, LiDAR, yeah, definitely. My friend has a LiDAR, so we LiDAR'd the school the other day actually, so we have a complete model of that ready to go. But you I think you've got to be careful, especially with primary school children. You're arriving at the at the professional end of things rather than starting at the, well, what's a square, what's a box, what's a pyramid.
There's an interesting thing mentioned in the comments actually. I can bring it back to my rig. Which
he's shilling a chair too.
This is what I would be able to do. It's doing metal. So there's someone mentioned CNC in there, but to rig up this camera, because the lens has been used in anamorphics, it's called a Bolex, which is really sought after. They're very rare and they do a beautiful picture. But these were designed to go on projectors, not onto cameras. So there's a guy over in Belarus, and he actually, you can contact him, which I did. I had a chat to him, and he's made us the CNC piece here and the CNC piece here, so that I can mount this lens to this. So I can mount the anamorphic to the taking lens, which is a Helios, and then so that I can put the focus locked to infinity, which you have to have in this kind of setup. Most people just get a piece of tape and do it, but that can get knocked when you film, and then it messes up everything you've shot. So here he's built me this piece of metal. So I've come up with the idea, and then he's actually made it into reality. And then a few weeks later, it's arrived on my door. And it's, I just love this, that you've got people with the little workshops where you can, come up with an idea and they can make it for you. And I really would love if a machine ever came out that was affordable, where you could put bits of metal in it and machine it for you. But
they have sintered 3D metal printers, but they require special ovens and things. But I must admit that probably like most people, I would be lost. I mean, I've got a miller lathe, MIG welding, TIG welding. I've got all the gear I need to make anything that I wanted and that I could think of.
Ballistic missile?
Well, possibly, but I'd never do that. But I mean, it is so empowering to be able to make stuff, especially when you get to the point where you can, if you don't have the tool for a job, you can make the tool for a job, and then you can make more stuff. And it feeds on itself, and it is so wonderful. I'd be absolutely gutted if I was like an average person who had to go and buy stuff or pay someone else to make something. It's so great to be able to make it yourself.
Now, has anyone annealed these plastics? Has anyone heated up and tried annealing?
There's videos on YouTube about it.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to ask you, but you obviously haven't. So I'm not going to have flipping weatherproof materials or sunproof materials.
Is it PLA
or? This is PLA. Yeah. I'll probably end up making molds and molding the parts when I move on to my next stage of world domination. Through reinventing. The wheel.
Can you get I'm surprised I hadn't seen it advertised, but I'm sure you can get a filament that's designed for like the equivalent of lost wax casting. It's something that just burns away completely.
Well, you got the water solubles.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The water solubles would be the one for that, wouldn't it? They always print a bit weird, but
mind you, if you're doing a plaster cast, you don't really want to use water because it takes a long time to dry out the plaster before. You
could do it with a chemical one, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? One which would fall out on a certain IPA or something where it would just.
Well, they have special foams that burn away to nothing. The ash is such a tiny percentage that you can use them for creating those things.
No, it's just I was just wondering if they're needing. Scott's saying that lost wax cast filament. Oh, you can. Wow.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Well, I wonder if that'll
Wow.
go through my $79 printer.
I challenge you, Gary, to print carbon fiber filament through it and see how long it lasts.
I'm sure
But they do TPU quite well. It's a direct feed head, isn't it?
Yeah.
Extruder. So you can do TPU, which is really good.
Yeah, put something or wood. Put wood filament stuff through it. That'll cut a hole in it in a couple of hours.
Will it stick to my preferred choice for the bed by Jane Seymour window set hairspray?
Don't you use glue stick, Gary?
The genuine thing is, man, the proper tin actually smells exactly like hairspray anyway.
Have you had bed adhesion troubles?
He's got all of the stuff for sniffing, isn't he?
Yeah.
Aerosols and glue. You've got to be from the 80s to remember that.
You just need a few plastic bags, you'll be right.
You don't see a good glue sniffer wandering the streets like you used to, do you?
No,
Is that Happy Crack on the shelf behind you?
I'm one for tradition, me. Don't you get none of your modern rubbish from me. I'm all for tradition.
None of these tablets or white powder. I want glues and aerosols.
I want glues. Exactly. And my super expensive bed. I'll get this. I spent hours in research and development with this. Millions of rands have been spent on this. Oh, I'm gonna smash it now on this. Here, let's see. Because it came with this funny flexible thing that just flexes itself to bits. But look at this fantastic example of a cut window glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done all.
Don't print PETG then, because it'll stick to
rip it off. Yeah.
My glue solution has been somewhat. Where's the camera? It's over there. Somewhat effective on the last print.
That's his bed. Jesus.
Captain tape apparently is very good. If you put Captain on there, you can.
Captain I used to do that on the old printers. Used to lay it down, just loads of it.
Well, you can use masking tape.
Yeah,
masking tape works too.
It's just anything, just
because then it peels off easy. Yeah.
Do they?
You can buy big wide rolls of masking tape. That's what I've got. Big wide masking tape roll.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. And then it won't stick to the bed, but it will stick enough to not warp when you're printing.
I'm going to enclose it in a specialized, obviously another 5 or 6 years of research and development on the enclosure.
A couple of box.
Yeah.
Print yourself an enclosure, Gary.
The massive 10 by 10 centimeter. That's why this one. You can imagine making up 10 by 10 bits to make this took ages.
Yeah, I was actually going to buy in one of those $100 printers to do a review on the channel. Order it and then just go, can you print for FPV for less than $100? That was for TPU. I was going to look at Bruce. Do you know what I mean? Can you do it?
Because you don't need a heated bed for TPU either, so they're perfect.
Just freaking stick it in.
It doesn't need a heated bed. That's interesting. I understand that's what all the cool kids have, but I'll need an EU grant to research.
If you were in the UK, Gary, I could literally give you a proper printer, but by the time I shipped it to you, it would be
wouldn't arrive either. That's the other thing; it wouldn't arrive.
Does it have a resume function for when your power goes off and on?
To be honest, it doesn't even work on the good ones.
I know.
That's the one thing I don't think they have nailed yet.
Well, I mean, it's slow because to make it work, you slow it down. So a 6-hour print is a problem.
Still working on that first benchy, eh?
Yeah, 6 hours. That will do one in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I see they printed a benchy in space, weightless. Did you see that? Yeah. Wasn't very good.
but it's all joking aside, it's we've made, so back to Ian saying, other Ian's, we've made money out of the $79 printer. It's allowing me to muck about and play with stuff and bring stuff into the real world. It's allowing me to bring my pupils Tinkercad things into the real world for them. If they make a really nice thing, I'll
Yeah.
bring it into the world for them.
Half my brackets in here are 3D printed. You know, like I got cameras mounted on the roof of the channel and stuff. And it's like, whereas before you'd be looking, going, right, I have to go and buy something for that. Now, what I've looked at and going, right, I can 3D print something for there and then 3D print something for there. I need one now for over there for something I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm moving some stuff around. So, yeah, like it gives a lot of flexibility. But at the end of the day, it's time versus money. And all of these things are time versus money. You spend an hour designing something and then printing it is all very nice. But if it was $22 on Amazon and it turns up tomorrow, a lot of people are just going to want to do that, aren't they?
I wonder how many people have got 3D
that,
printers in the back of the wardrobe, along with the abdominizer and the other stuff that they bought on from TV stuff. Yeah. Because a lot of people, I get the impression people buy a 3D printer, they print everything they can find on Thingiverse, and then they've got nothing else to print, and they just stick it away in the cupboard. Yeah. And the next time they get it out, all the filaments wet and breaks. And
just going off a tangent for a moment. I think, Gary, you should be cloned and be everybody's IT teacher at school, because I do think that's. I think you'd be a good. I'm sure you're a good IT teacher and knowledgeable on it. Where it seems that that's really a subject that just doesn't seem to be particularly. Well, certainly, I get the impression in the UK just not particularly well taught these days. So I just thought I'd add that.
Is he closer to the camera now, or does he just grow bigger?
Yeah. No, I think it's because everything in this modern world is all about the companies that has the biggest amount of bullshit to tell schools. You need to buy this, you need to buy that. This is what they need to learn. That's what they need to learn. It's no like actually, I think I'd be very poor against the standards of what's expected of.
Well, I was going to say, you might not teach the curriculum, but you'd actually teach something that'd be quite useful and interesting.
Well, they use a tape measure. One of the things we learned to use is a tape measure.
And a slide rule. Did you teach me how to use a slide rule?
Yeah. Oh, what, is there anything else?
No.
Is there anything else?
If the batteries hadn't gone flat in mine, I'd still be using it.
Yeah, there you go. No, but it's an easy to pull the wool over the eyes of people with the shiniest thing. You know, our school has a room full of shiny thing X, Y, and Z. Well, that's great. What are you doing with it? School down the road's just built an innovation center. It annoys the nuts out of me. So you go into this room and you can innovate. And the second you go out of this room, you don't innovate anymore. And your thinking stops and all that. So it's just rubbish. Your whole school should be you should be allowing children to explore and innovate and do what they want to do. But what worries me is that they don't have a desire to build and make stuff, make that model aeroplane like we did in the 60s and 70s and crash it and build it again. That's gone. The Lego thing, but I'm ranting a little bit. But it was very kind of you. Thank you, Ian. I hope I do provide an interesting time to clowns. Nothing else. But I'm going to say it. Today there was a lad who's particularly amusing. He came to us from another school and he did things like him ordering, he's quite a wealthy lad, so ordering an Uber for him and his mates at lunchtime and disappearing off into Durban to restaurants, and the school had no idea where they all were.
You should make friends with him, Gary.
Yeah, but I saw him twigging what I wanted him to do, which was make an outline of the chapel and draw it up correctly, the right distances and stuff, and he got it, and I could see him not deriving pleasure, but just he wasn't being told off by a teacher. He was doing something, and I was praising him, and it was cool. And then you can instantly think, well, okay, you take that a little bit of it, and like, right, what else can I chuck in front of him and see if I can get to? And so I will. He doesn't know it yet, but the Pix 4D model I'm going to make of the chapel, he's going to help me print it. And then we'll discuss it and the whole 3D process. So if you can get to do that every once in a while, just one or two of them that you can help pick up and perhaps nudge them a little bit in the right way, then it's very rewarding.
You're always more engaged at school if it's something that is sparking your imagination, that is something that you're interested in.
I went to my kids' school for the walk around last year with my daughter, and I was blown away. But with the DT department, because they have couple of 3D printers, laser engraver. They had everything, and genuinely, if that had been there when I went to school, I'd never have left. It was I never had any, nothing,
Well, they didn't
nothing
exist, Ian.
remotely like that,
They
and
didn't
it is.
exist.
They have everything now. The STEM, they build these. They did this thing this year where they did this to create the fastest rolling car that should go the furthest. So they all have the same length ramp, and they go down. And I helped my daughter, and I 3D printed her rubber wheels to help it grip, because it was sliding, because what they were having was the way they print the wheels, they were too smooth. So I actually resin printed in flexible filament covers for the wheels to make it go faster. And it was just, I'd have loved
Hang
to
on.
have had that.
I can just see me taking the marks off. Oh, what did your dad do again? Just tell me exactly what he did. Yeah.
You guys had it so easy, man. When I was a kid, woodworking class consisted of a room with a tree in it, and our computer lab had an abacus in the corner. That was it.
It wasn't just the high tech stuff. It was the welding. They're still doing the full welding, TIG welding, MIG welding. They're doing all of the good
I wish we
stuff.
did that.
They had all. Yeah. It's not even just the technology side; it's the heavy engineering side. They get in like a rally car that they've had in the school for years to work on, and it's like it's really good stuff.
This is Eton, is it?
No. I was going to say, it's just an expensive private school.
It isn't. It was really voted one of the worst in Wales. They've been really lucky, actually, because they got put into special measures. And what happens when you get put into special measures is they throw bucket loads of money at it. And they were put into special measures, got rid of the head, put a new head in, and it's just really doing that. But I live, believe it or not, this area is classed as a poverty area. Southwest Wales is deemed as a very low poverty area.
Andrew Dibbins had a forge. Was it genuine or was it a knockoff?
No, dear me. Oh, yesterday. No, I was saying to someone only today, I wish we had woodwork and metalwork. But that's not what you're supposed to be saying as the technology teacher. But it's missing blocks. Another bit of printing I did with the lads. Another one of our problem children was really into fishing, and we made a load of fishing lures and stuff like that. And he just, as soon as he knew,
should have taught him to use dynamite. So much quicker.
Yeah, well, yeah. But the point of that though is, as soon as he knew that so we could do something that was for the hobby he loved, then he got into it, and then he's away and he's designing and he's making and he's building, and he doesn't realize how many skills. He doesn't care. You're supposed to say, learn this, and this. Here's all the skills. It doesn't matter. He's doing something he enjoys, and he's got very good at it. There's no need to name each thing and bloody for outcomes and all that sort of thing. What a load of nonsense. Look, we've gone over 2 hours, and I'm in a very ranty mood, so it's probably time to go.
I think we should recap with a bit of news before you go, though.
Oh, go on.
Well, we've had Dublin Airport again. That have.
I missed that one again. I missed that.
Oh yeah, they've been making some noise about a drone again, which has made the press over there. So they said again it was a drone, and we verified it was, but yet again without any video from the county UAS system and without a single arrest. So they seem to still be in a situation of having a system that can see or detect a drone, but they can't do anything. They don't know where it is to do anything about it. So we've either again got someone seeing it, or the system's still not at a state where it can do anything other than ping and say there is a drone, and not where it is. So the funny thing was they're making the big thing again. In recapping, they're going, and we've had our drone detect system for several years, and obviously we know from a few weeks ago on this show that we showed that actually only recently started building in more sensors. So I just thought, you are such,
they probably had one of those charts, the airline pilot chart showing you what's a drone. Everything's a drone. That's their detection system. It's hanging on the wall. Yeah.
Well, yes. But it's very hard to, half-truth things these days when you can go to Google Earth and look at the pictures. Oh, the mast is there this day. Or it's not there. Oh, that's when you install it, roughly.
Yeah. they are quite fortunate that the Google Earth car hasn't gone all the way around the airport to check it all. There's still some sort of few years, but they have been caught in that sort of law bit. The very road where they've put that sensor is the one that, for some reason, the car tends to go up and down more often.
But if you can identify it's there, you can see it's there, and you'll have, if it's a DJI thing especially, you'll have all its details and the operator's details even before RID becomes a thing. What's the point of having the counter UAS system if you're not actually going to go out and tap the person on the shoulder, or what's the point?
Yeah, well, I can only imagine that they've still got some issue where they don't know where they are, and you've got to assume, or maybe it's not DJI, or because either that or D-Drone doesn't actually decode the package properly for aeroscope and only just says it's there without telling you. But they kind of give you the impression that it can detect it. So I've got to believe that it can, so that there's some process issue, or they're dealing with maybe an hotel, so they know it's there but not where. But you should be knowing where. You should have the RF detection properly. So there's obviously some sort of gap there still.
If you're not decoding the packets, how do you know it's even a drone? Could be a Wi-Fi.
Yes. It's a pacemaker or something. Yeah, it's an anything going by.
Second harmonic of the local restaurant's microwave oven.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're doing enough where they think there's one there, but it's just bizarre that it's still an ongoing saga. And the unfortunate thing is the transport minister still gets blamed for it all, but really this is something that would have all started and could have been sorted out well before he came into power. So at first I thought it was quite amusing, but I over time I've ended up feeling a bit sorry for the guy, really, that politicians shouldn't be sort of be getting all the aggro for an airport really having to know its subject matter.
Sounds like Ireland should introduce remote ID, if you ask me.
Well, the trouble is that's the way they're pushing, and again you're making an answer for something where it isn't an answer, because aeroscope itself is a form of remote ID, and so if you're not handling that properly now, your argument's pretty weak, really.
It doesn't stop
well
them.
done, Australia, the Australian AAUS Federation, for saying, tell you what, we don't want that RID. That's pretty well done for them. It's standing up to their government, which, unlike every other drone representative group, this doesn't seem to have done enough. So they did really well telling their government, no, thank you, we don't want it. It won't make any difference, but they've said, no, thank you, we don't want it.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Often these things don't make much difference, but we'll see where things end up. There's a little bit of I did try and actually email you all earlier, but any of you our Gmail account, it will have bounced, because for some reason my email's getting bounced by Google stuff, which I need to sort out at some point. But yes, I need written submissions from you, Gary, for certain, from SUAS News. Bruce, if you could do it, it'd be cool as well. And if he wants to jot something down, is welcome as well. But the Gatwick appeal against the ICO, I've got to get all the evidence in September. So basically what they said is that they're expecting everything to be done and dusted by 29th of September from all parties, and then they'll make a decision soon after that. So we will find out what will happen then. Interesting, this is the bizarre thing as well about how justice seems to work. As I was panicking to meet a deadline and to get the paperwork in, and if I didn't hit that, they could say, well, no, you can't appeal. And then I got two in time. The third one, I had to write all this mitigation, and thankfully they allowed that to go. But to the ICO and to Sussex Police, they said to me, we want to hear from you within 14 days. Didn't hear from either in 14 days. Go back, and basically up until the day the appeal's heard, either party can just say, yeah, we're going to reply. So they get all the time in the world to reply to what I've said. Yeah, I had to come up with that in next to no time. So I just thought, the world's a little bit unjust when it comes to the legal system. And interestingly, at this point, Sussex Police still haven't responded. So they've ignored they just say, do you want to get involved in this appeal or not as a party? And they haven't even said yes or no. So it looks like they're not going to bother. So it looks like the ICO are going to be left by themselves to defend the behaviour of Sussex Police, which is just kind of a little bit. So it's
Wow.
just a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Evening, Mark. We're just about to go, but good evening to you. You can rewind this and
Yeah.
listen to a variety of subjects.
And you can fast forward through most of it.
Yeah, that's right.
The only thing we didn't mention today was kitchen sinks. That's how much topics we've covered.
There's no remote ID on them.
And yes, they've proven that in
It's very
China with
hard
all
to
those floods.
3D print, and you wouldn't use them in a solar system. I know what we could use them for. We could use them for a reflector for the new Wi-Fi digital system. We'll use a kitchen sink as the reflector. That's what we'll do.
Now we're really plumbing the depths.
He's good, isn't he? All right, we must go. We must go. We've been over 2 hours. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, have a lovely rest of the week. Look after yourselves. Thank you very much for your engagement in the chat this evening. It's very interesting, and it's what did you say? A gaggle of geeks. It's nice to know that this gaggle of geeks is out there. Be careful, and we'll. Two sinks have good focal points. Oh no, let's not go down this rabbit hole. Take care. See you next week. Look after everybody. Look after yourselves. Cheers, everyone. Bye bye.